Hey guys, how's it going? So I wanted to expand my channel and add new different types of content. So what I decided to do was add a podcast. Now, my first podcast is going to be with Chris Denina. I spoke to him a few days ago, had a great conversation, and I'm going to be releasing that conversation in 3 different videos. So I hope you really like this first part. It's about his foundation, where he grew up, where he started, and basically what is driving him to be a physique competitor, what keeps his motivation, things like that. So I definitely hope you like this, and stay tuned for the next 2 videos that I'll be releasing within the next few days. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome back. This video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to have a conversation with my friend Chris Denina. He won his class at the men's physique category at the Emerald Cup this year, and I was really excited when I learned that he had won. I had a friend who won the bodybuilding class masters a few years ago, and I'm like, hey, that's cool. I know 2 people who have won major competition in the Pacific Northwest, so that was pretty awesome. So I've talked to Chris a lot about training and nutrition, dedication and commitment, and staying focused. So those conversations that I thought that we would just bring them all together, have one conversation, share it, and anyone interested in pretty much a committed in a focused mindset, really, because we'll get into it, but when you compete at a high level, and not that I know, but from people that I know who compete at high level, it's a mindset versus it's a big part of it is mindset. So we want to learn about that, and who not better to talk about it with than someone who's been very successful in his sport. So when I approached Chris about this, I was like, you know what, let's talk about your foundation, because typically what happens, and again from stories and books that I read, your foundation is a big part of it. And either things really pissed you off as a kid that you just wanted to prove them wrong and punch those people in the face, or you had really encouraging and positive things happen along the way that just kept on driving that. So we're gonna all talk about that. But first of all, Chris, thank you for taking some time to chat with me. Yeah, just tell us about yourself. I mean, family structure, where you were born, raised. Let's talk about that.
Well, I was born and raised in Oxnard, California, and my dad was in the Navy. Okay. And he was like a strict dad. There was 4 of us. But there was a lot of times where he wasn't just around much. So as far as having like a constant like male figure in your life, it was kind of inconsistent. Parents, they had kind of a rough marriage growing up. My dad had a bit of a drinking problem, and just rough times seeing your parents go through that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So I was a middle child, so my dad was not, I'm gonna say paid attention, but my sister was the oldest, and like she was like the athlete, the star athlete, the one in the family who just kind of set the standard for how us kids should be.
Oh, so there's athletics runs pretty much in the family.
My sister, yeah, and I did everything like because of my sister. Like all the sports she did, basketball, I did basketball, track, I did track. But as far as like having like an encouraging like support, my sister mainly, my parents mainly only like with my sister, you know what I mean? So I had to like
focus on her.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I almost felt like I had to like motivate myself through a lot of these things besides looking up to my sister, you know.
You motivate to get attention or motivate to compete?
Motivate
with your
myself
sister?
to be as good,
I see.
you know, to have that. And a little bit of, to satisfy my parents the same way she did.
I
you
see.
know what I mean? I was a small kid. I wasn't like the most gifted, like built kid. I was tiny. I was like a stick. So, you know, I was always the smallest one on the team. I was never big enough to play football. I had good endurance, and I just had the natural athletic ability to do these things. But I wasn't like, as far as like my confidence level, I always had to constantly try to,
Like what age?
motivate myself.
What age were you talking about here with the head-to-headness with your sister?
Since like 3rd grade.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
And she just set the standard of everything. She was like in 6th grade. She was like team captain of everything. I'm like, man, I want to do the same thing. I want to be that.
Did she ever pick you?
She was, what do you mean pick me for?
Like if you guys were playing neighborhood sports or the kids in the neighborhood?
I don't know if we ever. She was always doing her own. She was older. She was always doing her own thing. But she was also a very hard critic. Like the way she would be, like how you should be like on the court. And there's one time where when I was I had to play basketball against her. I was in middle school, and it was when we lived overseas. So my dad was in the Navy, and we lived overseas for 2.5 years. And the school we went to was this private school. Everyone went to school together. So like elementary, middle school, and high school was all one big school.
It's all one.
Right? Yeah, it's a private school. And so the middle school kids, I was in 8th grade, the middle school kids had to play the varsity girls scrimmage. And my sister was the team captain there.
I see.
Right? And I was a point guard there. I was a starting point guard. And I had to go against my sister. And it was the scariest thing I ever had to face, like, till this day. And I was just fucking up on the court. Like, it affected me. Everything. And my
Well, because
sister
you thought that she was just focused on you, and
I just
how
looked
you're
up to her. I'm
performing.
going against my idol.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she just played hard. She was very vocal. I mean, she had such a personality where she was just a leader. You know what I mean? And she just commanded the court. Everything she did, and she would guard me, and she would just like steal the ball from me. And I was just like, and she pulled me aside, anyways, in between game, and she was just like, "What is going on with you? Like, you need to get it together. Like, get your head in the game and this and that." And that helped a lot, you know what I mean, as far as me getting back on the court. But like, she knows what I was capable of doing. It's just, growing up, it was always constantly looking up to her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I never thought, bodybuilding, that was something that came later on in years. But I always seemed to like get discouraged so quickly as a kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so like freshman year basketball, I came here. We finally moved back, and we moved to Seattle. And I was gonna play for the team overseas, but we moved. So I come here, and it's like you reset yourself. They don't know who I am.
Yeah.
So I get here, and I try out for the basketball team. I get cut. Like, they don't know who I am, and I'm kind of like out of my element. I don't know anybody. And it crushed me, because I wanted to live like the same standard like my sister did throughout high school. You know what I mean? So I wanted to do the same thing, and it like literally crushed my world. And so I just didn't want to play basketball anymore. So like to this day, I think that's why a lot of things that I do in life, like following through and not giving up on anything, is because of what I used to do as a kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I kind of stopped playing sports. I stopped running track. I swam. I didn't do that here. And I kind of got, caught up with, the social kind of aspect of high school, trying to fit in because you don't know anybody, and getting into bad friends and here and there, and just making bad choices in high school. But things really started to play and make sense more later on, like in my 20s, like trying to figure yourself out.
Right.
And just knowing that, and you can't always live through your sister's shadow. You know what I mean? And so that's when I started to figure things out on my own. What am I good at? You know what I mean?
Right.
Being a personal trainer, like, totally came later on in life. You know, once, you know, I went to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, I was always like a creative, artistic guy. So I thought, okay, maybe get into like graphic design. I went to school to be a graphic designer, and that didn't work out. I dropped out. And started working, and later on, you know, realizing that you're not really, I don't know, I was just kind of going through autopilot at my job, and my dad had a stroke about 6 years ago, and it's kind of a scary time.
Right, of course.
Yeah, then, you know, you get a call, you're at work, and your dad's in the hospital, and so we get there, and they tell us your dad had 2 strokes. You know, we thought it was like a heart attack, and it was pretty serious, and so that's when I started to realize, like, I don't know, it's a change, because that just, it was a big shift of like the way I saw things in life. Like, you know, you're getting older. Perspective, totally.
Right.
Your dad's getting older, you know, it's at that time where parents are, you know, I don't want to say be like harsh, but either passing away or getting sick, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so doctors are talking to us, and they're like, you know, this seems to run in your family. And all your dad's brothers, all my dad's brothers have the same. They've died in cancer, strokes. But the doctor was basically sitting there telling us, you know, it runs in your family. Just be aware that a lot of you guys can have this in your future, but just take care of yourselves. You guys seem like healthy individuals. And it just made me think, you know, about where I am in life, you know, that for some reason. And then my dad had to learn how to walk and talk again. And so I remember my sister sent me a picture of my dad in this like clinical gym. Yeah, it's like a physical therapy. Yeah. And he had to learn how to walk, and he was like on these 2 like parallel bars, and it was like a video of him. And I was like, oh man, you're at dad's, you know, his physical therapy. And he's like, man, I need to go to that. You know what I mean? She's like, yeah. And so she told me what his schedule was, and so I started going to all of his physical therapy.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And when I saw this physical therapist work with my dad, it was like the coolest thing to see. You know, it hit home, first of all, because it was your dad.
Yeah.
2, it's just, she was like so hands-on. Like, she was literally teaching my dad how to walk again. And so she was behind him, like harnessing his ankles, and he was like picking up his feet, just reminding his body that he still has legs, because he wasn't paralyzed. Because he could have gotten paralyzed, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And so I approached her.
It's that mind-muscle connection.
Yeah, it's just, you know, just reminding him, you know, that, hey, you didn't get paralyzed, so it didn't like damage your neurological system,
right,
and nerves for you not to be able to walk again.
Sure.
So, yeah, I approached her. I said, man, you have like the coolest job in the world. And I was like, that's so cool what you're doing for my dad, but like you get to where I've never seen a setting like this. You know, I've always been in and out of going to the gym and everything, but this is a different environment. And so she's like, I was like, I would love to do something like this. And she was like, you should look into becoming like a trainer. I said, you know, I thought about that, but you know, I always think of trainers being like those cliche trainers you see on movies, like 24-hour fitness, like, yeah, let's go, you know. But I said, you know, I thought about that, but I didn't think you could, like, there's much into that industry. She's like, no, there's a lot you can get into. You can get into settings like this. There's a plethora of things you could do.
Right.
And man,
sports is big business.
Yeah, just fitness industry is just a huge spectrum that you can get into. And so I was literally at work, you know, you kind of stressed out, your dad's going through that, and I'm like, man, it just triggered something in my brain, like, you need to change something in your life. You need to like take this health and fitness, and her telling you should become a trainer, and this is your chance now to like make your own choices and not live through your sister, or you know what I mean, and kind of create your own lane. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna become a trainer. And I literally 2 weeks later, I told my boss, I was like, I'm gonna put my 2 weeks in. I'm gonna, you know, well, I told him, I said, I'm willing to stay until you're able to get somebody, because
What were you doing? What kind of job?
I was an analyst for AT&T.
Okay.
So I was behind a desk.
So you were
a
desk
job, 3 screens, and just 10 to 8 hours a day. It was good salary. It was great.
Can of Coke on the side, or
yeah, that's what everybody. I mean, there were times where
Bags of
in the
chips.
lunchroom I saw somebody get a whole like 4-course meal in a vending machine, dude. It's so bad, but that's the environment that you're in, working at a place like that. But you know, I actually I wanted to put myself through school to do that. I didn't want to just become like a weekend surfer.
Yeah, you wanted some.
Yeah, I needed to get back out.
Yeah.
Like if I'm gonna get back out there and totally reset myself, my career change, and just be social again with people, because I didn't deal with people. I was behind a computer all day.
Yeah.
I looked up a school, and the first link that I found on Google at work is the school that I chose, and I went to school for a year. So I would work in the morning and then go to school at night, four nights a week in downtown Seattle. So I'd commute it down there, and you know, after about a year of still being at work, because I decided to be there a little longer. Once I had the first opportunity to work, and I worked at a gym in downtown Seattle, I just took it, and that's when I became a trainer. And you know, I left my job and started at a gym for 2.5 years, and my goal was to go eventually independent. I didn't want to stay at a gym.
Yeah.
And I did. I just did it. And
so you're going to school, but you're not at AT&T anymore at that time.
I'm not AT&T anymore.
What was the support there? Like, you living at home?
So I was already married. So
Okay.
I fast forwarded to a lot of.
Oh, so you got married in the meantime?
Yeah, I got married. I met somebody while I wasn't a trainer then. My current wife, Maria. But yeah, I told her. I remember telling her on the phone, like, I think I'm gonna quit my job. I think I'm gonna become a trainer. She was like,
Are you crazy?
Sure? Well, she didn't say I was crazy. She was like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "I think so. I think this is it." You know, because I've tried so many things. Like,
Well, I'm assuming you had the conversations with her about the impact the physical therapist had on you, and
yeah, she knew that. She knew that. But she just said, okay, you know, and I told her, I said, you know, I promise that when I make this, I won't ever turn back. I won't ever turn back.
Right.
You know, because I was known to do that, you know, like, not turn back, but like try something and it wasn't, I don't know if it was the confidence level. I would drop it and then do something else.
well,
you know?
tell us a little bit about, like, what were those things? Like a couple.
Man, so I went to school to be I wanted game design because I was a computer guy growing up as a kid too.
So game design. So I mean, so that's the visual part of you, like graphic
I totally
design.
like that.
So
still,
do you think you liked it in theory? Although when it came to the practical side of actually,
it was more. One, the instructors I had were like completely boring and just uninspiring. But two, I knew that this wasn't something I wanted to do immediately. Just the environment. But anyhow, firefighter, I knew that was something like I wanted to help people, because I would take like, you know, those career personality
Yeah.
and it always ended up you want to help somebody.
Sure.
You're going to be somebody who's going to help people.
Right.
And I wasn't quite sure what that would be, and then when I thought about, you know, that's what your results were, you know, as
So
a
that was
trainer,
a common denominator.
That was a common denominator, and you know, it brought back my athletics, you know, and you know, I was always, you know, I started working out like years ago, but you know, I love being in the gym. I love the whole, you know, therapy side of being in the gym. It helped me. Me being a small kid, I always wanted to put on some type of muscle. You know,
Yeah.
I thought I could never do. I didn't ever think I was going to compete in bodybuilding. That was something that came later on during being a trainer.
I see.
And we can get into that. But yeah, I mean, just becoming a trainer was something that just made sense. You know, being a firefighter, I went to school too up north, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't seem like it was something that I wanted to continue to do, you know. And so, you know, I started working at AT&T and just becoming a robot there.
Wow, so from potential fireman career to sitting behind a desk, that's quite a switch.
It is. And it was still extreme switch becoming a trainer too. You know, I made sure, I told myself when I was gonna do that, I needed to be in front of people again. You know, I didn't wanna just learn how to be a trainer in a book. Anybody can do that.
Yeah.
But I needed to, being a good trainer is somebody that can deal with people.
Sure.
You know, that makes a good trainer.
Well, I mean, because in my head, and correct me if I'm wrong, being a trainer, you don't want to be that trainer that encourages everything, because then, in my opinion, if you encourage someone not encourage, if you give kudos and you're super positive to everyone about everything, then people just say, okay, I'm doing good, I can lax, you know, I can eat this, I can not go there. They get into this mental position where they're okay not doing what they're supposed to. So, and I mean, I've seen you train your clients, and these are pro athletes that don't want that yes man mentality. They want you to be honest, and they want you to work them and work hard. Because it's they're wanting to reach that other level. So tell me a little bit about, and not to get too much into the training right now, but working with someone like that, like working with an established pro athlete versus working with someone like, let's just say me, who's 80 pounds overweight and gets tired within 10 minutes. I can't push Carlos too much, otherwise he's going to get discouraged and quit. Versus the really athletic pro guy who I just need to keep on riding him.
Well, one, it's completely different training environments when you're training somebody. You know, if I was to train like a civilian fat loss client versus like a high athlete, right? It's still the same formula though. You're still challenging them, right? Mentally and physically. They may be different exercises, but it's still kind of the same.
Okay.
You know, you're still challenging this athlete and keeping him accountable for the things he's in, and maybe throwing things. Because one thing about pro athletes is they don't like not getting down certain things, so they get competitive with themselves.
I see.
And so making sure you're catering their training to something that, you know, that points out their weaknesses, and they want to work on that. So that's one aspect. It's the same thing, you know. We point out what somebody like a civilian needs, as far as like movement wise. I mean, you know, so it's a completely different environment, except you motivate them in the same way.
Gotcha. So you told your wife, I'm gonna stick with this for real, for real.
Yeah.
And you have that amazing support system.
She's very supportive.
So there had to have been some times though where you were a tad bit discouraged, or you didn't think that things were going to go your way.
There was times where you're questioning yourself, like, did I make this decision, right? That came when I started working as a trainer, right? It wasn't so much during the school process, because you're like so focused on wanting to learn how to become a trainer, and you have to learn how the human body. They get into like all the scientific stuff that you need to learn to be a trainer. So you're so focused on that, on learning that you're not thinking about, is this the right decision I'm making? Because you're actually working on
applying it.
You're doing something to get into that profession, so you feel good about it. Until I got into working at a gym, and I told myself I didn't want to work at, like, no disrespect to 24-hour fitness or LA Fitness trainers, but I didn't want to start there. And because that's where I worked out, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to be a trainer or somewhere where I went as a member, you know what I mean? So I got a job in downtown Seattle, which was where they would hold our class environment in Seattle. It was like a health club, so it was like more of a health club feel. It was called Seattle Executive Fitness, and that was it was like a high-end health club, kind of like pro sports club. So I'm like, cool, this is a good start, right? I know I'm not going to be here, but I need to start. And I saw like the lineup of trainers, and like super educated trainers, like masters in kinesiology and ex-pro athletes, D1 athletes, and they chose me, like, out of the classroom environment. One of the fitness managers was like, hey man, we've been watching you on the floor and working with like you know, your not dummy clients. That's the wrong term. Sorry. Like test clients.
Your fake
dummy clients.
Practice clients.
Practice clients. And they liked what I was doing. They liked my style. They saw how I trained. Because I would actually, I was very, I like to innovate and exercises. And so I would always try new things, like functional training. I wanted to be that type of trainer. I didn't want to be that trainer who was like, go to this machine, go to this machine, go to this machine. I understood where I needed to go as a trainer to
which
be
is what those
an actual good trainer, right?
Those chain gym trainers
totally do. Yeah. And so anyways, to make a long story short, they ended up hiring me, and I was like, wow, I can stand next to all these super educated trainers, right? And so it made me feel like I belong there, right? And so I started training, and training at a gym is so corporate, and it's such about the numbers that that's when you start to think about, like, what did I do? Like,
wanting to sign packages and
it's all sales, and it's like, you don't even talk about training methods and how to help people at all.
The benefit, right?
You're just a number. And so I stuck that out for like 2 years, and you know, I was not happy. I was literally not happy because of just the behind the scenes. I loved working with my clients.
Yeah,
that was the best time I got. But then trying to get clients and sell packages, like I hated that.
I'm laughing because I think that we sort of have parallel mindsets on that, where we try different things.
Totally.
And it's like, I wanted to I love photography. Even right now, I love photography, and I started a little photography business. And I think I had experienced some of those same challenges because I love taking pictures. I love working with clients to get a photo that they really love. I mean, there was one of the best feelings is doing a family shoot, and showing the mom especially, the photo of their family, and her saying, "I love it. I want to print it." And then going through the process of selecting how big they want to have their photo printed and where, you know, in a prominent place in their home. And then you get compliments later on saying, you know, people love our photo, and I've given your information out. So all that is amazing. But what sucked is having to do the not even the marketing, but having to contact 200 people a week to be able to have 3 or 5 clients 2 weeks later. And then not only that, but then even though those photos taking those photos is a lot of fun, but if you take 500 photos in one session, then that means you have to be at your computer for hours editing and culling those photos. So I think that those are similar. Those are similar challenges.
I had to sit, you know, when I first started working as a trainer, you're like, okay, you don't have clients, and they're not just going to give you clients. And there's some that they passed on to me, but you have to work to get your clients. So you had to sit at the phone and call all these new members and just get a meeting with them. And that's when you have to sell them personal training. And there's like a guideline of how you...
Oh, I see. So that was your leads list, was the existing members of that gym. So then they were already paying membership fees there.
They just became a member. And so what they do is most gyms... I'm exposing the gyms out there, is when you sign up, they want you to get personal training. When you become a member, they're always going to try to set up a meeting with a trainer. So that's just the route that
24-hour fitness does have a few hundred of my dollars for personal training. In 2 different states. And it just no enthusiasm to continue. And it was the same in various gyms. But again, they were just focused on getting those packages.
Don't get me wrong. Like, getting a trainer is worth it. If you get a really good trainer, it's worth it. Like, you get that one-on-one.
Well, because I'm pretty sure that there are trainers that are similar to you that want to. You know, that have larger aspirations, but know that they have to put in their, like, paying your dues, you can sort of say.
Totally.
So if you get lucky and you get someone like Chris, then it's not that. Then you can get but then there are other ones who prefer the sales side and not so much of the
and there were really good trainers that were good at both. You know, they're really good. They could sell training, and they were really good trainers. And I was around that. And I was fortunate enough to be around really smart trainers. And I learned a lot, you know. it was just that constant environment of being that salesy.
This is the
Yeah. And, you know, I got to the point where I was like, you know, I want to go independent. That's one thing I wanted to do, was go independent. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to have clients follow me. I immediately started looking at studios, and I found a studio that was in downtown Seattle, not too far. And, you know, crazy story, I ended up knowing the owner before he was in the fitness industry too. And he happened to own a fitness studio, and he immediately was like, dude, I got you. Come to my studio, you know, if you have clients, you know, he took care of me as far as like getting reset up, being on your business on your own. And so I ended up taking the jump. And
so you were at AT&T for 2 years.
No, I was at AT&T for, man, it's like 6 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So okay.
I was there for a while.
So you were at AT&T, and then you left and you went to school for a year.
Yep.
Am I correct there? And then you started at this gym, and you were there for 2 years.
About almost 2 years, yeah.
So it was a 3-year journey to get your space.
Yeah. A little bit longer than that, you know, to getting to that level of looking into getting your own space.
So,
right.
I mean, I know how old you are, so you were really young when this was going on. Or, you know, the AT&T, you were young when you started at AT&T.
Yeah, I was still in my 20s, you know. Dang, I was still in my 20s. Dang. I'm not that old, guys. But yeah, you know.
I don't remember my 20s.
Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, I still don't know to this day how kids, when they're 18, 19, 20, 21, know what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Well, they want to be YouTube stars.
Yeah, well, yeah. This next generation, of course, yeah.
They want that YouTube money.
They want the YouTube money. Shout out to YouTube. Hit and subscribe, CZ Media. But yeah, you know, I started to really find my own in who I was and how I belonged in the fitness industry when I went independent, because I had all the freedom to focus on my identity.
Right.
As a trainer.
Build your brand and
build your brand. You have all the freedom. That's when it got fun, because creating your logo and building your Instagram, and I started to record. I started to exercise all my creative outlets. You know, like making videos. My wife supported, such as a good supporter. She got me a GoPro camera for my birthday, and I used it. I would film like GoPro fitness videos, and you know, I started to get really into like editing my own stuff. Like it's still fun. Like I still do this to this day. You know what I mean?
Well, I would say the payoff there is you created a concept, you executed a concept.
Yes.
And you're able to measure the success.
Yes.
From the very specific work that you did.
Yeah. I mean, and I was realizing like this is my thing. This is my own thing, right? And you know, there are, you know, all the things that I like getting into bodybuilding. My sister would tell me, she's like, I'm so proud of you. Like I'm so proud of what you've done and this and that. And that meant a lot to me, coming from my sister, you know. And, you know, I was really setting myself in my own lane, finally, you know what I mean?
So,
yeah.
All right, so let's go there for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The training, the PT kickstarted it. It was that catalyst, right, to get you going. And then you went through the proper steps. You worked, you know, you went to school. Mm-hmm. You put in your time at the gym. Got your own space. So what was the other catalyst for you to say, hey, I can get up on that stage?
Get on stage, yeah.